In tonight's window on Saskatchewan, the possibility of new jobs for that province. With more on that story, here's Hawryluk in Regina.
Thank you. Good evening. CBC News has learned the provincial government is considering a proposal that could bring hundreds of jobs to the province. A medical lab company called MDS has presented the government with a 5-year investment proposal. But as Nancy Rose reports, the deal is already running into opposition.
MDS already employs about 400 people in private medical labs like this one throughout the province. The employee-owned company has a proposal before the provincial government that could almost double that number. The 5-year deal would see MDS inject millions of dollars of research money into Saskatchewan businesses. The company's export arm would then sell the products around the world. MDS has promised to reinvest 150% of its profits back into the province. MDS is a well-established company, and it's offering the government some badly needed jobs at a time when it's coming under fire for not creating enough employment. But at the same time, the offer carries some risks, and those risks are both financial and political.
Our workers have to sit through months of anxiety not knowing what's going to happen to their jobs.
The Saskatchewan Government Employees Union has got wind of part of the deal and has already been running newspaper ads trying to put a stop to it. Almost 85% of the province's lab services are provided by public labs. The provincial lab is badly in need of updating. But this is a government that doesn't have a lot of cash to spare. As part of its proposal, MDS would update the publicly run lab in return for the right to run it. That affects about 115 government employees, and, according to their union, it would cost the government money in the long run.
Well, we've done a study into the situation in laboratory testing in Saskatchewan, and basically we found that these costs are increasing at an alarming rate. And I think that if there was more testing done in the public sector where it's done cheaper, there'd be a great savings for the taxpayers of Saskatchewan. I would estimate that it may be as high as $15 million.
There are jobs involved both ways. There are jobs involved with respect to workers in the government sector, and there are jobs involved with respect to workers in the private sector. The analysis needs to be finished and complete, and then the decision made on the principles that we adhere to and we support.
The NDP has already come under fire from its own members for being too right-wing, too conservative. And this proposal essentially asks a socialist government to privatize a public medical service. Economic Diversification Minister Dwayne Lingenfelter would confirm that the government is looking at the proposal, but says it's too early to talk about it. Nancy Rose, CBC News at the Saskatchewan Legislature.
Well, just one more night before ghosts and goblins make their appearance. But in Regina, there's one place where the spirits don't wait for Halloween. Dean Goutal has the story.
There's something strange going on at the Regina General Hospital.
People say it's an elderly woman in a white uniform, a lady with gray hair.
It wasn't a lady as far as I'm concerned, because and it wasn't wearing a cap or anything. It looked bald to me.
Few agree on who or what this ghost is, but hospital legend has it that an elderly nurse haunts these hallways. Some say it's the ghost of a former head nurse who worked here 40 years ago. The ghost is always spotted in the old wing of the hospital, sometimes in storage rooms. Most times, she's spotted in the stairwell. Only later, workers realize the elderly nurse can't be accounted for. Few people want to talk about it publicly, but Margaret Crozier's experience was so real, she talks openly about it. It happened one night last March when she and another nurse were making the rounds.
And I saw something go by the door outside the hall, and it went by very quickly. And there's doors at the end of the hall that you have to open to go through, and that's why this person went by so fast, I thought they're going to run into those doors, so I kind of cringed, and my girlfriend said, "What's the matter?" And I said, "Who's up here with us?" And she said, "Well, nobody except the supervisor." And I said, "Well, it wasn't her." And she said, "Well, what's the matter?" And I said, "Something went by really fast." So I came around to see if there was someone standing around the corner, and I was a little bit afraid, so I just kind of peeked like this, and there was nobody there.
Whatever went through these doors broke a security beam that triggers an alarm. A security guard came rushing up.
And he said, well, something broke the beam. He said, did you hear those doors open? I said, no, the doors didn't open, because they're quite noisy. And he said, well, something broke the beam. And I told him my story, and he said, well, it must be that ghost.
We've had bats flying through the hospital wards, but I've never seen a ghost.
Carol Schuessler has worked at the hospital long enough to have heard her share of strange stories. She remembers the experience of a former worker.
We were just at the desk, and he came back, and he was terrified that he had seen this apparition in the stairwell, and he was definitely quite scared.
But Schuessler says the strange events shouldn't frighten anyone.
If there is a ghost there, it has to be a very nice person, because there's never been any bad things that have happened because of it. So it must be a very benign type of spirit, so I don't think anybody really has to worry about it.
Ian Gutile, CBC News, Regina.
Wonder if she'll be making her rounds on Halloween. And that's it from Saskatchewan tonight. Good night.
Have a fun weekend, Karen. Thank you. We'll be right back with our window on Manitoba after this commercial break.